Assalamualaikum everyone, or good morning everyone. I'd like to share with you about the Catholic social teachings regarding the care for the earth. In our previous topic, I shared with you about God's story of creation. So we all know that God created the world. He intended that all its creatures, including human beings, be connected in harmonious web of life. So therefore, each one of us, all the creatures, we are interconnected, whether you are human, animals, plants, and other creatures. So connected in harmonious web of life. And you know very well what is the web of life. He made human beings the caretakers and stewards of creation. Remember, all of us human beings, we are the caretakers or the stewards, tagabantay sa lahat ni nilikha, sa lahat na nilalang na ginawa ng Diyos. So take note on that, my dear people of God. We are the stewards of creation. He created the world as a sign of His love and power. God, once again, created the world because He loves us so much, and it's also a sign that He is the most powerful. Then, what about the goods of creation? All the goods belong to humanity as a whole. So remember, human beings are caretakers, the stewards. Kaya nga, the goods of creation belong to humanity as a whole and are endangered by environmental exploitation and economic decisions. And I think we are familiar with this. That's why we have all the calamities. Sinong gumagawa, kagagawa ng tao. Our environment was being exploited, and of course, when you talk about the economic consequence, damay-damay na yang lahat. What about the mining? Sabi nga, malaking tulong na yung mining. But, what about the environmental exploitation? So, yun ang nagka-problema. Every economic decision has a moral consequence. That's according to Pope Benedict XVI. That's our Pope in the Catholic Church. Once again, every economic decision has a moral consequence. And I think that's clear to all of us. Then, examining our relationship with creation, the question, how do we relate the natural world? How would you answer this one? How would you relate to the natural world? How is your daily life shaped by the natural world? What warnings or signs or dangers of God's creation do you see? Diba? We know very well there are now a lot of endangered species. Tandaan natin yan. That's the point of reflection to all of us, especially this question. Then the interdependence of creation. Human beings plays a unique role in creation because we are the stewards, so therefore we have the unique role. That's why in the Bible, especially in Genesis, have dominion to all creation at ikaw na din yung magpangalan sa kanila. Ganon yung ating role, our unique role to God's creation. Interdependent relationship between human beings and the natural world make up the larger community of life. Sana kung maganda ang as a stewards, maganda ang ating pagdala sa ibang mga nilikha, ang ganda ng relasyon between the humans as well as to the natural world to have a larger community of life. What about the integrity of creation? Sustaining the integrity of creation is necessary for the earth to thrive as God intends. So once again, in sustaining the integrity of creation is necessary for the earth to thrive as God intends. Plants requires the proper mix of water, sunshine, soil conditions, nutrients, atmospheric gases in order to grow. So yun dapat nating tandaan as human as we are. Kaya nga hindi lang yung, 'di ba, marami na sa atin because of the pandemic nagiging plantitos, nagiging plantitas. That's why we take care of the plants. Yung mga halaman natin, 'di ba? Proper mix of water, sunshine, soil condition, nutrients, and atmospheric gases in order to grow. Pag hindi yan magandang mixture na yan, pangit yung kalalabasan sa mga pananim natin. So that's part of the integrity of creation. Then plants in turn provide living creatures with food and oxygen. So take note yung the web of life. Cycle kasi yan. Okay? When you plant, so therefore, magpo-provide yun to the other living creatures, to the birds, and the other animals, other creatures, with food and oxygen, especially for us. The oxygen na hinihinga natin every day of our life, galing yan doon sa plants. And there are a lot of scientific explanation on that. Then plants support all other life on the planet. And all other life supports the plant life. So you look at the interconnectedness with the other creatures, human as well as the other creatures. Then plants need insects and other animals to aerate the soil, aid pollination, and disseminate the seeds. When you were still in high school, I think meron kayong mga subject na ganito, especially in biology, that plant also need insects and other animals. Kasi nga, sabi natin, because of this web of life, and kailangan yung aid pollination, especially, remember yung mais, the pollination, and disseminate seeds. Then may mga threats to the integrity of creation. Ano-ano yung mga threats? Yan, kita niyo sa drawing. The power plant. Grabe, that's one of the threats of the integrity of creation. The rapid increase in human population. That's a threat. And why? Because, sabi nga, we are God's stewards to all creations, to all creatures, but the problem, irresponsible kasi yung tao. That's why one of the threats is the rapid increase in human population. Padami ng padami ang tao, ang problema, grabing sinisira yung ating kalikasan. Alam ninyo yan. Bakit nagkabaha? Kasi wala na mga kahoy. Sinusunog, inuuling, kaingin, illegal logging, the legal logging, special the legal logging, problema talaga yan. That's a threat to the integrity of creation. Next, environmental pollution. Ang dami. Okay? Environmental pollution. And I think I'll share with you, or I'll give you a topic about pollution, about this related to environmental pollution. Household, institutional, and municipal waste production. That's a threat. Kaya nga tulit-tulilada ang mga basura na nakakolekta, especially now, especially yung ginagamit sa swab test, face mask, face shield, at lahat-lahat na. Tunitulinada yan all over the world. That's a waste. Okay, not only municipal, institutional, kasali na ang sa atin sa household. Tinuturuan tayo, Yung proper waste management, nalalanta, di nalalanta. That's also in our institution, in the school. Pero yung iba, irresponsible pa rin halos lahat sa atin. Kahit na kinder wrapper, kahit saan lang magtapon. Na meron namang dapat tapunan, especially ang basurahan natin. So that's really a threat to the integrity of creation. Water shortage, alam natin dito sa Cotabato, and not only Cotabato, all over the world. In Manila, di ba? Yung mga dam nila, pag walang ulan, walang tubig yon papunta sa syudad. Dito nga sa atin, magka-problema din tayo, di mapato in the city. Okay? Problema talaga ito, the shortage of water. Then destruction and collapse of natural ecosystem. Wala na. Wala nang matitirahan ng ibang mga nilalang. Kasi sinisira na especially the mining, legal or illegal mining, especially the legal one. Okay? Kaingin, that's the problem. That's a threat. Catastrophic natural disasters. Ayun. Kasi sinisira ng tao, so therefore, take the consequence. There are a lot of now natural disasters. And we cannot blame God. We have to blame ourselves as human being because we are given the responsibility. That's why our topic, our subject is God's creation and His social responsibility. So it's all of us are responsible of this. That's why itong nangyari sa mga catastrophic natural disasters, that's the consequence. Kasi hindi natin inalagaan ang ating kalikasan. Then the modern technical and scientific developments. That's also another thing. Modern technical and scientific developments. Problema. Agricultural land, gawing housing. Okay? Gawing, ano pang ginagawa? The modern technical and scientific developments. Ang daming ginagawa. Mga industries na doon, sinisira ang kalikasan. Nakakatulong? Sabi, nakakatulong. But ang kalikasan ang nagiging kawawa. Overconsumption of natural resources. Take note. Because of the increase of the human population, so, yan. Overconsumption natural resources. Tapon dito, tapon doon. Kaya nga, naalaala nyo si, si Villar, yung senador na babae. Dapat tanggalin ng unlimited rice. Maraming nagre-react. Okay? Kasi yung iba, kaya nga, kahit napunta ka sa mga fast food, ilan yung nasasayang. Okay? Then, sobra-sobra, overconsumption nga. Nasobra, pero sinasayang din. Kaya nga, sirang-sira. That's the threat nga of the integrity of creation. Then there's a question here. What daily choices do you make that have an impact on the integrity of creation? And you have to answer this one. So once again, this is part of your reflection. Answer this question. What daily choices do we make or do you make that have an impact on the integrity of creation? So discuss on that and you have to submit. Okay, wag kalimutan. So we move on. Pollution. Air pollution, noise pollution, water pollution, then sa land. And we know what is pollution. And there's a study from 1987 to 2001. Air pollution decreased by 20%. Buti na lang, nag-decrease. Then, manufacturing contributes to less than 25% of air pollution. Once again, manufacturing contributes to less than 20% of air pollution. Then, carbon dioxide emissions from manufacturing declined by 66% between 1972 to 2001. So, remember this study at least may decline. Then, carbon footprints. in terms of describing the amount of greenhouse gases emissions produced by an individual, household, and institutions. And I'll send you a copy about these greenhouse gases. What are those greenhouse gases? Meron tayong video dyan na papadala ko rin sa inyo. Then, Environmental Protection Agency is just one of the many agencies that works to protect the environment from pollution. So, yun lang, isa, Environmental Protection Agencies. And there are also a lot of NGOs. The Greenpeace, that's also one that helps and to protect the environment from pollution. Then the household, the institution, municipal waste production. You look at the drawing. Yung mga basura dyan, saan galing yan. Then waste is a continuous problem. That's all over the world. Remember one time, ginawa tayong tapunan? Yung the waste from Canada, tinapon dito. From Australia, tinapon dito. Then our president nagagalit, pinabalik. Okay? Tingin nila sa atin, tapunan. Kaya nga, waste is a continuous problem. The amount of solid waste continues to grow through normal human activities. Take note. The amount of solid waste continues to grow through normal human activities. So, it's human activities. Okay? So, mismanagement of municipal waste is a public health hazard. Yan. Kaya nga, every municipality may program sana dito about proper waste management. Pero the problem, na mismanage din. Kaya nga, nagiging public health hazard yung sa ating health. Kaya nga, sa Cotabato, mayroon tayong harap ko, linis ko. Pero hanggang sa karatulan na lang, hindi ginagawa. Kasi maraming tao dito, I don't know. Alam naman ninyo yan. Punta kayo sa syudad, parang bahagi na sa buhay ng mga tao dito sa atin ang basura na nasa harap. Alam ninyo yan. Kaya mapunta tayo sa ibang syudad, di ba? Naiinggit tayo. Wow, ang linis-linis sa lugar dito, hindi kagaya sa Cotabato. That's the problem sa atin. Okay? Mismanagement of municipal waste is a public health hazard. Kaya, punta ka super. Punta ka sa old market, ang baho-baho. That's really the problem. Basura dito, basura doon. Okay? Then, waste minimizations needs to be a priority because this in turn leads to reduction in pollution. Kaya nga, dapat household, institution, and even the municipality, ito na yung dapat na tingnan natin. I-minimize natin. And dapat maging priority yung proper waste management para mabawas-bawasan naman itong pollution. Especially the air pollution. Para mabawas. Hindi lang air pollution, lahat. The land, the noise, okay? The light pollution, pwede rin. Mabawas-bawasan yan. Then, household recycling is an example of waste in which we voluntarily contribute to a common good. That's why I told you the nabubulok, hindi nabubulok, nalalanta, hindi nalalanta. Okay? May mga dapat ayusin dito. Okay? I-recycle yung, remember the 4 R's? 3 R's? Recycle, reuse, ano pa? May dagdag pa refill o repair? So yan, tandaan natin yon. Pwede pa magamit, gamitin, recycle. Okay? Then reuse, at saka the other R's. Maraming R's yan. 3 yung alam natin, pero marami. May repair, refill, pwede rin. Then there are warning signs of damage to the integrity of creation. What are those warning signs? Take note, the vanishing species, eradication of insect, plants and animals, animal species is rapidly accelerating. So that's the problem. Okay? Vanishing species. Kaya nga, yun. Kaya nga hinuhuli yung mga instinct na, yung pinagbabawal na konti na lang naiwan. So kaya dapat pangalagaan uli. Kasi that's a warning signs of damage of creation, yung vanishing species. Another thing, warning, destruction of the rainforest. This destruction threatens to delicate balance that sustains the life on Earth. Yung rainforest natin. Mayroon pa ba makikita sa Dimbabatoy? Mayroon pa rin dyan na dapat preserve yan para nagsusupply yun ng tubig. Pero pag mawala yan, maubos yan, talagang magka-problema tayo. Okay? Another discussion. What factors are contributing to species eradication? Then second, what factors are contributing to the current destruction of the forests? Once again, kayong sasagot yan. So may tatlo na. Yung una, at saka itong second, at saka third. Once again, the second, what factors are contributing to species eradication? Then what factors are contributing to the current destruction of the forest? So kayong mag-discuss, kayong magsulat dyan. And that will be your assignment. Then we all know that creation is sacred. Why sacred? Because they are God's part. They are God's creation, of course. Coming from God, coming the love of God para sa ating lahat ng mga tao. That's why dapat sacred dapat. I think I really appreciate sa mga kapatid natin mga Muslim. Kita ninyo, pag magkatay kayo ng mga hayop, dapat nasumbali. Dapat hindi masasaktan. And why? That life is sacred. The life of the animal is sacred. What about the plants? So dapat alagaan. Inalagaan nga natin yung bulaklak. What about the other plants? Especially yung kahoy. Because that's sacred. Because that's God's part of the creation. Then what does God call us to do? So that's a challenge to all of us. And we have to be responsible. That's one good thing. Okay? Then, how does God view creation now? Diba God, in our creation story, even here in Islam, in Christianity, medyo magkahawig mo yung creation story natin, diba? God created everything. At doon sa paraiso, man, the first man, si Adam, mapayapa silang nanirahan with the other creatures. Ganun dapat yung paradise na yon. Pero sa ngayon, anong nangyari? Sinisira ng mga tao, naging irresponsible yung mga tao, tuloy nagka-problema tayong lahat. So ngayon, how does God view creation? Kung ngayon, ang titingnan niya, nalulungkot siya, unlike before. Then, what does it mean for humans to protect the integrity of creation? So, hindi ko nang pasagot ito. Ngayon, yung the first lang sasagutin nyo. So, what does it means for humans to protect the integrity of creation? Kayo, para sa iyo, ano kaya yan? Ang ibig sabihin, humans to protect God's creation. Since we are all God's stewards, we are all the caretakers of the creation of God. So, therefore, be responsible. Be responsible. And each one of us, we have to do our parts. Kasi, sabi nga natin, the previous slides, di ba? May mga warnings na. Okay? Na dahil dyan, nagka-problema. Kaya nga ngayon, nagka-problema. Tag-init, tag-ulan sa atin. Ang season natin. Pero ngayon, even the climate, hindi na alam. Ang tag-ulan, naging tag-init, tag-init, naging tag-ulan. Ano dahil sa kagagawan natin. Then, how does it mean for humans to protect the integrity of creation? So, it's up to us. Kaya nga, once again, as a challenge, take responsibility. The full responsibility. Do your role as God's steward. Then, the call to be stewards. Human race is called to safeguard the integrity of creation. Yung sabi natin, tayo talaga ang mag-safeguard. Tayo talaga mangangalaga. Tayo poprotekta of the integrity of creation. Then human beings are stewards, made in the image of God. So if we are the stewards, so therefore, we have to take care and we have to be responsible in taking care the earth or the creation of God. Then foundation of stewardships are found in the creation accounts in the Genesis, that the previous topic that I shared with you, especially for the Christian perspective, the story of the first chapter in Genesis, the first book of the Pentateuch or the Torah is Genesis. The accounts, the story of creation, that God created everything. So therefore, we are given that authority to be the stewards. Then, what do the creation accounts teach us about stewardship? Alam na natin yon. Okay? If we base it from the first previous topic. God is good. Creation is good because it flows from God's goodness. Ayan. Once again, creation is good because it flows from God's goodness. Then God gives humans dominion over the minerals, the vegetables, animals, and the resources of creation. Have dominion. That's why, that's in Genesis. So therefore, have dominion. Ibig sabihin, we are on the authority. So if we are on the authority, we have to do our role as stewards, as in the authority, not to destroy the other creatures. Okay? So tayo yun, have dominion. We are on the authority. Minerals, vegetables, animal resources of creation. Then God provides for the good of all creation. Because of the love of God, He provides the good for all creation. That's why may iba ding mga tao na, wag patayin ito kasi may buhay yan. Wag ito. Kaya nga, it's up to us. Okay? Kaya nga papasok yung stewardship. Our role. That's a great challenge to all of us. Then human sin results in suffering even for the earth. Kakalungkot, no? Human sin results in suffering even for the earth. Di ba alam natin, una, the disobedience of the first parents natin, start yung human sin, then results in the suffering even to the earth. Kasi sinisira na natin earth, dumadami na rin tayo. Yung sabi natin the previous slides. Then another discussion, what can we learn from the reflecting on the creation accounts in Genesis? Sinabi ko na sa iyo na nabanggit na natin yung the previous topic at saka with the previous discussion natin, sana naman may natutunan tayo at napagnilayan natin the goodness of God, the power of God, as well as that creation is also good for all of us human being to be the stewards. Then, keys to understand the call to stewardship. Stewardship respects the sacramental universe. This is in the Catholic perspective. When we talk about sacramental universe, sacra which means sacred, the sacred science of the universe. So, kaya nga stewardship respects yan lahat. Irespeto dapat yan. Lahat-lahat yan. Being sacred. You look at the drawing there, lahat na nilalang dapat. Sabi natin kanina, yung harmonious relationship with other life, not only the human life, as well as the life of the other God's creatures. Then, stewardship also respects God's gift for the common good. Kasi pag sinisira mo yan, or yung the greediness na nasa tao, ang nasisira yung stewardship, is not anymore you didn't anymore respect God's gift for the common good, para dapat yan sa lahat. Pero sa kasakiman mo, kaya nga sabi, kasalanan pumapasok dyan, the earth is also suffering, not only the human beings, but as well as the earth in general, the creation in general. Then, stewardship cares for creation. Once again, stewardship cares for creation. Then, stewardship respects for all the sacrament, which means that respect for the sacramental universe includes respect for, take note of this the dignity of the human persons. Kasama yon. Dignity of the human persons. That's part of the sacramental universe na kailangan irespeto. Next, the basic goodness of all creation. Okay? Then, the presence of God in visible and tangible ways. That's part of the universal sacramental universe. Okay? Then, creation in God's presence in it. Creation and God's presence in it. Okay? Now, the stewardship for the common good as God's gift for the common good, itong stewardship na ito, tingnan nyo ito, God intend for humans to benefit. So, para sana yan sa atin. That's the intention of God para sa ating lahat. Pero problema nga lang, sinisira natin. Then, God intended for humans to use the goods of the earth. Then, stewardship safeguards natural resources for the benefit of all people, including those who are poor and also the future generations. So once again, take note of this. Stewardship safeguards natural resources for the benefit of all people, including those who are poor and also future generation. Kaya nga, papasok sana dapat dito yung tinatawag sustainable development, yung meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising the needs or destroying the needs of the future generation. Kaya nga, that's part of stewardship. Each one of us, you have to be responsible. Take care of these natural resources. This is for all. Not only the mayayaman, but especially the poor. Pansinin niyo mga farmers natin, hindi naman sila nakaangat yung iba sa buhay. Mahal nila yung environment. Pero anong ginagawa sa mga mayayaman? Kaya nga, they are not helping the poor. Pero talagang tinutulak nila, mas lalo kaya sa ating, di ba, pala, the poor becomes poorer and the rich becomes richer. So that's the problem. Because of sin, because of the greediness, nawala na yung sinatawag ng stewardships. So, yun nagka-problema din. The future generation, magka-problema na. Tingnan nyo, 15 years from now, kung maubos na lahat na kahoy, sobrang init na. Wala ng tubig. Then what happened to our kaapu-apuhan, mga anak natin? Ka-problema na ang next generation, the future generation. Kasi hindi natin naging irresponsible tayo bilang stewards of God's creation. That's the problem. Now, stewardship, which means caring for creation, we have these rights and responsibility. Take note, what are these rights and responsibility? The right to use natural resources for good. Ang ganda sana. But yung iba, for their own good. Greediness nga, talagang naging sakim sila. So, yung iba, wala na. Apektado din. Responsibility to ensure the well-being of the natural world. So, that's our rights and responsibility in taking care of our creation, being as stewards. Then, respect for our role in creation. Then, responsibility to engage in economic practices that use natural resources to preserve the earth now and in the future. So, ang ganda nito once again, part of rights and responsibility. Responsibility to engage in economic practices that use natural resources to preserve the earth now and in the future. Eleksyon na naman sa Pilipinas. Economic practices, palaging pinag-usapan. Natural resources, ganon din. Anong nangyari? Baka yung iba hanggang salita lang. Pag nakaupo na, wala na. That's the problem. Magandang nagawa sa ating presidente. Build. Meron namang nagawa. Pero, on the other side of the coin, tingnan din natin. Nasisira ba ang ating kalikasan? That's the point there. Maganda na sana yung si Gina Lopez. Namatay pero hindi natuloy kanyang pagka-DNR secretary kasi mahal niya yung environment. Yan ka, caring for creation, being a steward. Pero tinanggal si Anway. Sino man yung naninira din sa kalikasan? Mga politicians. That's why hindi siya pumasa sa committee. So that's really the problem. Kita ninyo? Okay? Problema na ito ngayon, yung responsible to engage in economic practices that use natural resources to preserve the earth now and in the future. Then stewardship means respecting the integrity of creation. Ulit-ulit lang din ito. Tingnan yung babae dyan. Palangga niya yung kambing. Then, stewardship means practicing sustainable economic by considering a long-term consequences. So, long-term consequences. Tingnan natin yun. Sustainable economics. Ibig sabihin, kung anong ginagawa natin hanggang masusustain na magagamit the future generation. Then, practicing environmental accounting in which we consider the value of environment when making economic decisions. Yung the accountability, we have to practice that, especially pag environment na yung pinag-usapan natin. Then, consider the value of the environment that when making economic decisions. Magpagawa tayo ng golf course, malaking tulong ito. Malaking tulong kaya o sinisira mo yung ilan lang ang nakinabang doon. Instead, ang farmer doon, tapos ginawang golf course, nagka-problema tuloy. Is that so many sustainable? Economic, nakakatulong ba? Or are you accountable? Or did you practice the environmental accountability? That's the question there. Then, environmental accounting or green accounting, tingnan itong green accounting or environmental accounting means considering the hidden economic value of the natural world. Hidden economic value of the natural world. Anong nasa creation? Anong nasa natural world? Ito yung dapat titingnan. Kasi yun yung talagang nakakatulong. Kaya nga, hidden economic value. Then, paying attention to the value of life. Okay. Not only human life, but as well as the life of other creatures. Animals, the birds, the insects. Kung sinira mong environment, their ecosystem, wala na. Ubos rin sila. Kaya nga, ulitin ko, marami ng endangered ngayon. That's why, environmental accounting means paying attention to the value of life. Once again, not only human life, but the life or the lives of God's creatures. Then, respecting natural resources as a gift of God. Now, the society's role in stewardship includes sustainable development of the natural resources for the future. And I think I told you already, what about this sustainable development? May topic din tayo dito. Ay bibigay kayo yan sa inyo. But the meaning of sustainable development according to UN, which means meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising the needs of the future generation. So, ibig sabihin, huwag sirain yon. Huwag isacrifice yung future. Dapat masusustain, ma-maintain. Kung anong nasa atin ngayon, dapat yun ding mararanasan sa future generation. Hindi yung naranasan natin ngayon, then nagpakasasa tayo, sinira natin environment, pagdating sa kaapu-apuhan natin, sa mga anak natin, wala na. Nakakalangha pa tayo ngayon na malamig ng simoy ng hangin, naubos ang kahoy, in the future, wala na. Kaya nga, mahal na ang hangin. Siguro lahat magdala-dala na sila mga oxygen. And why? Wala namang malalanghap, wala namang mga kahoy. Kaya wala nang fresh air. At alam natin yon. Kaya nga, a great challenge to all of us. So once again, that's a society's role in stewardship. Next is collaboration between business and the government to promote common good and protect the environment. So that's the point there. Malaking tulong yung collaboration. Businesses as well as the government. Dapat tinitingnan yung common good as well as the protection of our environment. Okay? Kung nagpa-build ka dyan, sirang-sira yung environment, kung pinagpatuloy mo yung mining, sinisirang environment, are you promoting the common good? That's a question there. Are you protecting the environment? That's a question. Okay? Now, living as a steward of the earth, to be good stewards of the earth, we can, so ito yung magagawa natin, reduce our consumption of the natural resources. Pwede nating magawa ito. Reduce our consumption of the natural resources. I think alam niyo yan. Recycle, then promote recycling and buy recycled products. Then share with others. That's living as steward of the earth. Okay, share with others. Do not be sakim. Do not be greedy. Okay, share with others. Pero yung iba, mahirap talaga mag-share, no? Kasi inuunang bulsa. Kaya nga now sa atin, example, what is happening now to our new government, the BARM? Share of resources, share of others. What about the environment? Kayo yung magsasabi dyan. Kayo nang huhusga. Share with others. Okay? That's being the stewards of the earth. Then advocate for sound environmental policies. So mayroon man tayong mga batas about the earth, about environmental protection, ang daming batas. Pero minsan, hanggang nasa papel lang. Walang implementation. That's the point there. Then evaluate energy use in home, school, church. Yan, pwede natin gawin yan. Sa bahay natin, magawa natin. Ay, mataas man ang patayin natin agad ang aircon. Hanggang 3 hours lang, electric fan na lang tayo. So, kakatulo. Ay, ang ating lights. Okay? As a school, hindi naman ginagamit ito. Bakit nagpa-aircon? So, patayin natin. Sa simbahan, of course. Okay? Then, stop polluting. Now, kayo yon. That's all of us. Kahit na kinder wrapper yon, kahit saan-saan mo itapon, nagka-problema. Basura yon. Kaya nga, kayo alaman ninyo yan dito sa Cotabato, wala talagang disiplina. Mga big time, gagarang mga sasakyan. Kain sa loob, tapos makita, kung nakasunod ka, makita mo na lang, tinatapon ang basura sa labas. Sabi ko, kung pwede palang manampal, kung pwede palang para matauhan sila, ginagawa ko. Ano why? Kasi wala ngang sense of responsibility. Okay, especially to the environment. Kita, tapon dito, tapon doon. I think you can attest to that. At saksi din kayo. Marami yan sa atin. Kaya nga, naiinggit tayo. Oy, kalinis-linis dito sa Davao. Ay, kalinis-linis sa Dumaguete. Kaya nga, punta kasi ibang mga city. Ano ay? Kasi responsible yung mga tao. Hindi kagaya sa atin, tapon dito kahit nasa mga sasakyan. Okay? Then, another is, what can you start doing today to be a better stewards of creation? So, kayo na lang sasagot. What do you think? How do you start today to a better steward of creation? Kasi yung sasagutin ninyo, yung first 3 lang. So, ito, pwedeng pagnilayan ninyo. Anong magagawa mo ngayon? Mag-start ka ngayon para magiging mabuting steward of creation. So, ito yung mga references of this research. So, thank you very much for listening. I hope natututo kayo. This is part of our teaching, the social Catholic teaching or Catholic teaching sa aming simbahan. Pero not only for our simbahan, but I think this is true to all. This is a good news to all na dapat iparating anumang relihiyon natin, anumang tribu natin. Ito para sa lahat ito, para makakatulong tayo sa ating environment to be a responsible stewards or caretaker of God's creation. And with that, I hope you learn something. Then huwag kalimutan yung pinasagot ko sa inyo ha. The first 3 discussion, you have to discuss that one, then submit that one. Yung the first 3 lang, yung minention natin. Huwag na yung iba. Kung may mga katanungan, doon kayo sa ating group chat magtanong. Then, once again, I hope you learn something. So, be responsible, be a good stewards of our environment, then God bless you. Dalaygon ang Diyos.